Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast of the Alternative Dudes podcast. Today, with me, I have someone who is very talented, who has a lot of stuff under her belt. She is mainly known for her podcast, the Tierra Talk Show, which interviews many people within the Disney entertainment area, and she also hosts the Nancy Drew podcast, Unlocked, and she's also a singer and actress. So please welcome to the show with me, Tammy Tuckey.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Tyler. It's so nice to talk to you. Tyler is
Woo!
like the greatest fan ever. He always comments and always likes
Aw.
the social media posts from the podcast or whatever I'm doing, which is always so supportive. So thank you, Tyler. And thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you for coming. So today we're here to discuss your new album, well, your first album, Meet Me on Main Street. So can you talk about, for our viewers who aren't familiar with Disney, like the Disney parks, what it's about?
Sure. Yes. You'll Find Me on Main Street is an album that I have been actually working on for about over a year now. And mainly I wanted to highlight the songs of the Disney theme parks because to my surprise, there were no covers of the songs of most of the songs that I had put on this album. And I really wanted to hear, other takes and other renditions, and I also wanted to make my own album, and I thought, well, let's put two and two together and make an album. And so I did finally, and um, it's a special album in my case. I was talking to somebody else, and of course, the album's all over the place with different genres, but I feel like it's such an experience to listen to it.
Oh yeah.
Just like you go to the theme parks and the attractions, every song is a new, different, thrilling experience, and there's a couple of really exciting, interesting collaborations on the album. So it might be a niche album, might only go for a niche market, but I am very, very proud of it. And I feel like a lot of Disney fans will, I hope they'll love it as much as I do. I don't have a big ego, so I'm very nervous
Yeah, I
about the
don't. I
album
know how you
coming out
feel.
the 15th of April. I'm very nervous, so I guess we'll see how it goes. I don't know what your thoughts were on it, Tyler, but
Well, we'll get more into the guests as we go along to the podcast. But from what you sent me, it sounds incredible. Like it sounds incredibly polished, well produced, everything. How did you go about getting people involved in the project? Like,
I think one of the main things that came out of it was that I had been, as you know, I had been interviewing a lot of people for my podcast, and I've been doing the podcast for almost 5 years now. So I'd been in touch with a lot of individuals, and have stayed in touch with a lot of them over the years. And so I was putting this album together, and I found songs, and I just thought, having an album where it's just me singing everything, harmonies, the main melody, that can be interesting for some songs, but my gosh, you have to mix it up. You have to give it a little oomph. And so I thought, well, let's see if, some of the guests I've had on my past show who I've been dying to work with, you know, would be interested in being a part of the album. So I called them up, I explained the project, and they were all for it. So
yeah,
that's how it was actually pretty simple to get them on board with it. I think the hardest part was just getting the final mix completed after recording for hours and hours on end. So, but that was the easiest part, getting everybody on board. Everybody's so sweet to me and very kind. So, I'm lucky.
yeah, and I'd say that you deserve that treatment because like all the people that you've interviewed, like for example, one of the guests on your show was Miss Ali Omo, who sings Two Brothers from the American Adventure down in Epcot.
Yes, she was on the show. She was actually one of the hardest interviews I've had to get on the podcast, considering she is nowhere online. She doesn't have a website. She doesn't have a Facebook, and nothing. Even Googling her, I couldn't find anything. And I got in touch with a friend of hers that I had saw that she had performed with recently, and I just said, "Hey, I have this show, and I would love to have her on it." and she's so talented. Is there any way you could pass the word along to her? And so they did, and she emailed me, and I just explained to her what a big deal the whole situation was. And she actually knows that a lot of people actually recognize her voice because of being in that attraction singing Two Brothers. And so she was like, "Well, I'd love to do an interview." And then, I called her up a couple months later and I just said, "Hey, I can't do a medley of all the American Adventure songs because they're all different, licensing problems and issues." So I said, "You want to do Two Brothers?" That should have been the first question I ever asked. You know what I mean? Just to do it overall, Two Brothers. But it's not technically a Disney song. It's featured in a Disney attraction. So I guess having that track on the album is cheating. But hey, it's my album, so okay.
Well, in your defense, you also have a Phil Collins cover on that album too, so
Well, technically that is Tarzan, and Tarzan, I actually spoke with the gentleman Mark Bancina who worked on the soundtrack with Phil for that film, and Brother Bear. So, he was explaining to me how Phil was very much involved with that project and wanted to collaborate very much so because he wanted it to be right. So, yeah, technically, "Strangers Like Me" is a mainstream song, but honestly, I feel like a lot of people forget that one out of the Tarzan repertoire. It's usually "You'll Be in My Heart," "Trashing the Camp," "Son of a
oh
Man," and
yeah.
"Strangers Like Me." I just love it because I think it's a really cute love song, and I do it in Jane's perspective as opposed to Tarzan's this time around, which is
Yeah, and
fun.
you nail it too.
Thank you. That one was so that was the first one I heard completed, and I literally was screaming. I was like, "Yes!"
Yeah, so I've noticed that with the track listing, you've picked out songs that are from both extinct and current attractions. What was your basis for picking out what songs you wanted to cover and what songs you what songs you
What songs
originally
I
wanted to cover and what
Yeah.
songs didn't come on the album?
It's a good question because even I was asking myself that, how do I make the cut? Because I originally was going to do 12 songs, not 7.
Oh yeah.
So that's 5 songs that made the cutting room floor. And I won't mention what they are because who knows if something good happens out of this album, we may have a sequel. But I really wanted to do that, but funds were low and I had to, work with what I had. So, go ahead and go with the flow as they say. So, um it was difficult because I had this huge list. Originally, the list was 35 songs, and then you had to cut it down to 20, then 12, then 7. So I honestly I think mainly I picked the ones that really meant something to me in my childhood that I clearly remember hearing when I was 3 or 4 or 5 or seeing in the parks. So, Doug Live is featured. That's the first time somebody has ever I have ever well, anybody's ever covered that love song from the Doug film because they didn't yeah, it was funny because Disney couldn't find it. They were trying to look for the rule is somebody has to have released it. Disney has had to have they have to release it on an album officially. Nobody can cover it until that happens. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to do a song from Carousel of Progress. So The Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. Now, let's say, for instance, if it was not released on an album, it never was released, it was only featured in the ride, I wouldn't be able to cover it. But since it has been on several different like park albums that have been released, I would be able to cover it. So that was a key issue. So someone like me from Doug Live, which was initially from the Doug movie, Doug's first movie, was a hard one for us to find because we didn't know if it was released,
Okay.
and we found it was released in Canada. So we won.
Yay,
We got
Canada.
it. Thank you, Canada. And that's funny because I wanted to do that song, "Oh Canada." Oh, it's such a cute song. I love it.
You gotta make Martin Short proud.
Oh, he's my favorite. I love Martin Short. Yes. We actually saw that the last time we went on the trip because we had not seen a lot of the 360 films in a long time. Because usually we rush. We go to what we really like to do, go eat, and we had time this time. So we went in and we enjoyed the film, and
Yeah.
we forgot how much we really loved it. I think Canada is beautiful. I would not mind living there actually.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, totally. And
It would be really.
Martin Short's done like a lot for the Disney parks.
Oh my gosh, he did my favorite thing, Cinema Geek. Have you ever seen it
Yes. Oh
before?
my god, I love Cinema Geek. A friend of mine actually did a video of like the top 17 extinct Disney attractions that closed in 2017, and he went a little in depth into Cinema Geek, but I've seen it in full on
It's
YouTube.
so amazing, isn't it? I just
It's
love it. And I think
incredible.
Martin does a great job with it. It's interesting because Martin has been used for several different projects that have been directed by Jerry Rees. And Canada was one. And also Cinemagique was another one. And I believe he did another project. I can't remember what the third collaboration was, but I've interviewed Jerry and he has some great stories, about working with Martin. I've always wanted to have him on the show. So who knows what the future may hold.
That is so awesome. You gotta seize the future, if you know what I mean.
Ah, your alien encounter reference is just quite obvious there. Oh man, that one is a good one too. I really enjoy. I don't remember. I don't think I was allowed to go on it when it was still out. So I never got to experience it, but watching it, it is scary. So I'm not surprised. But while a lot of people don't like the Stitch refurb,
Right.
it makes sense to me because that was the popular film. Like if they were going to update 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with Atlantis, if Atlantis was as successful as Lilo and Stitch, it makes sense because you need to bring those characters to the parks. So, not that I'm against the Stitch attraction. It's fine. I think it's cute. I just like Stitch, and that auto animatronic is
Ye
very impressive.
very like
Very impressive.
I'm kind of in the same boat of hating Stitch's Great Escape. I did it once when I was like 10 years old. Keyword being once, and it was like a sensory nightmare for me. And I was crying like so hard I couldn't even smell that chili dog
Oh, the, the
smell.
the burrito or the
Yeah.
chili dog, whatever it was. I remember when it first came out, that smell was so strong.
Ugh.
And I remember reading people complained about it so much they had to tone it down. I think it was like similar to the skunk smell in the Imagination ride as well. Unlike the soaring ride where people want to tone up that orange grove smell, which is great.
Well,
So, yeah.
mind you, the smell in Journey into Imagination is not that bad as I don't think it is, but
Not anymore. Not anymore. It used to be. I clearly remember it used to be worse. I remember riding the second refurb of that before they put Figment back in,
oh really?
and that was not good.
Ah,
But they were trying to do something new for the Millennium Celebration, and it's interesting. I find these videos and they have no views, but they have such interesting backgrounds. It really gives you like an understanding of that time frame, of
right.
why the Imagineers were thinking this way, why they wanted to do updates, because I think people jump to conclusions right away. And I like to know the full story. I want to know why these decisions were made, which is why I have people on my show who are not technically interviewed or you have never heard from them before, but their stories are so fascinating. And I hear things off the air from them, that stay between us, which is fine. And it's very interesting because there's so many different opinions, and I really appreciate learning from all of these stories, whether, they be on the podcast or one on one. It really doesn't matter to me. It gives me more of a perspective and understanding because, hey, as Pocahontas says, you haven't walked in somebody else's footsteps, you can't judge.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I totally understand where you're coming from with that. Like looking back, like I guess that's kind of the reason I'm so into the Disney parks because they're sort of like their own time capsule in a way, where you can look back at like something from like 10 years ago and like think about wow things were so different then.
It's interesting you bring that up because I feel like Illuminations is there's rumors, and I believe that they are accurate that it will be taking its final bow, but
Mm.
that show has been there since 99, and you can tell it's celebrating something that's not celebrated as much anymore. So,
Yeah.
it makes sense that they're going to update it, of course, but I will miss it. But it's like that time capsule. It really is.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's how I feel with Wishes and Spectro Magic, because I sadly never got to say goodbye to those properly. Although,
Oh, I'm so sad to hear that. I loved Wishes. I loved Spectra Magic. I was very sad that they removed that entirely. It's such
yeah,
a
same.
beautiful nighttime parade. There's nothing down at Disney World now, which is such a shame because I spoke to a couple individuals who had worked with Bob. I believe his name is Bob Yanni, and he created the Main Street Electrical Parade,
Right.
particularly in the I believe this or late 70s, early 80s. And so and he made a statement. He's like, "Well, Disney guys, we have to, have something special at night that keep the audience, engrossed, involved, you know what I mean? Not engrossed. I can't talk at all tonight. I'm very tired.
Me
uh,
neither. Like,
I don't know what I was going for there. They had to keep them involved, invested. That's what I meant. Invested. Thank you very much, Tammy. You have to keep them invested and involved and having a magical time. So it was a great show. I'm sad you didn't get to. I didn't even get to say goodbye to Spectro Magic or Wishes
oh
because
yeah.
we went back this trip and they were both gone. But I will say the new fireworks show at the castle. It had double the happy points from me because it has Hunchback of Notre
Oh
Dame in it.
yeah,
So I was
totally.
very happy.
Happily Ever After, which is a new fireworks show at the Magic Kingdom for people who don't know. It's so good because I got to see it for the first time last year, my last trip, and honestly, I think it blew Wishes out of the water, and it still has all the emotional factors and everything that made Wishes work. But it's just something about it that works so much better because like there's more to it now, you know?
It involves more characters and you get to see them as opposed to just hear them. But,
Yeah.
again, the technology has advanced so much because Wishes, I believe, came out in 2002 or 2003. So I remember seeing the original fireworks show before that, which I believe was the Remember the Magic fireworks show. I can't remember. It's all a mishmash. So I need to have something written down to at least read off of it and know what it is. So, but yeah, it's and again, and speaking of Remember the Magic, that's actually another song I cover on the album because again, I saw that parade. That was my first Disney parade, and that song just stuck in my mind. And I had no idea that there was this beautiful jazz rendition of the song, and I desperately wanted to cover it. It's gorgeous, and
Yeah.
there will be a special surprise in about 2 months with that specific song that you'll be able to see on YouTube. So
Ooh.
it
Yeah.
means a lot to me to be able to revisit those special memories that I have and kind of document them in a way that not a lot of people get to do. Document them in my feelings and emotions while singing a song. So I really enjoyed that. It was a very difficult but very highly enjoyable process.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of promoting the album, part of what you've been doing is been sharing some of your own old home movies from Disney Vacations past.
Yes. Are you enjoying them?
Yeah, they're adorable. Yeah, totally.
They're
Like I
really
only just
short, but they're I thought, well, it would be cool to get an understanding as to why I am such a big Disney fan. And some of these clips, again, I want to keep some things private, but I thought some of these specific clips are just too cute not to share, after all these years of having them. So I had them all transferred, and I'm very lucky and grateful that my dad filmed everything and my dad and my mom would take pictures. Oh, it was so much fun. We really did have a ball. And you could tell from the videos. They're all on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Tammy Tuckey if you want to take a look at any of them, and my social media pages. You could find them anywhere. But I just love them. I think they're just too cute.
yeah, they really are. You can tell. And this all has to do with music still, so it still ties into the podcast. Okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, next question. If you could collaborate with anybody that has had ties to a Disney park attraction in the past for a potential second album, who would you contact and why?
Whoa. Now that is a very good question because to me, I never even asked myself that question because I just went for it
Oh God,
when
I
I
just
asked
put you on
these
the spot.
individuals to be a part of it. And I love this. No, no, no. This is really good because I need to think through this. So, who would I have from a Disney attraction I'd like to collaborate on? There are so many great attractions that I just adored, but a song specifically, that's difficult. There are a lot of great tunes.
Right. Well, Tammy. In all
And
fairness, I'm also talking about like not just like an attraction, but like
oh,
anything
film
that's
too.
had presence in the parks.
Oh,
Like
anything that's had presence in the parks. Okay, good. Okay. That gives me a little bit more of a wider range there.
perfect.
Oh my gosh. Oh, geez. It's I think I really enjoyed Tapestry of Nations. I love that soundtrack. Now, that doesn't have anybody, I guess, notable on it, but it was such a beautiful parade, and the music was just
Yeah.
thrilling. I loved that. A
I
duet.
never got to experience it. That was like
Oh, you
before
would
my
have
time.
loved it, Tyler. It was so much fun. A great puppet parade, and I believe the individual who created the puppets for Lion King worked on this
Ooh, yeah.
parade. And that's what it's interesting. I really wish they still had a parade at Epcot. Such a great attraction. I think, oh my gosh, there's just so many great songs. I think, singing with Dreamfinder would have been cute.
Aw.
That would have been fun because I just love Dreamfinder. Poor Dreamfinder. Oh, I love Captain EO. I'm gonna say Captain EO on this one because I got to interview some of the dancers who worked with Michael directly and the choreographer, and their stories are just so fascinating. But that whole shoot, um, just sounded like a ton of fun. 1986, the height of Michael's popularity, and oh my gosh, to sing those songs, it would have been cool if I could have played the Angelica Houston part
Yeah,
where she
totally.
was leader and then I turned pretty at the end. That would have been fun. And then I could have sung a song with him. Oh, that would have been so much fun. And by the way, one of the Heidi and Odie, the twins in that film,
Right.
I interviewed I believe it was Odie, which was Cindy Sorensen, and her opposite partner Debbie actually passed away about 2 weeks ago. I
Oh
just found
no.
out. Yeah, only I think she was only 53, but
Wow.
she had been working for a while. And there's some pictures of them hanging out with Elizabeth Taylor. They said all of these celebrities came around to meet with them. So I would to I would have loved to have done a duet with Michael Jackson. I'm gonna say that.
Aw. Yeah, that would have been awesome. Totally.
Gonna change the world. I can't really do a very good impression, but I think that's so much fun. And it's interesting. I talked to one of the Dream Finders, Ron, and he said the funniest story was that the Dream Finders dressing room was where they would hide Michael if he
Wow.
ever was visiting Disney World. So they had a poster of him as Captain EO, and I believe they put like a mustache on it. And he's like, he probably saw it and thought it was funny. You know what I mean? So I always love that story. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm actually friends with Ron too, but I've never spoken to him on Facebook yet. But
He's great. He's a
yeah.
really nice guy. Has a great book about being Dreamfinder. There's some sad stories about his experiences, but some very fascinating tidbits. And I I think it's From Dream to Dreamfinder's the name of the book because he had come on the show to promote it. It was a great book. If you love it, the Imagination Pavilion and Figment, definitely take a listen to that or read it. You can listen to it. I think it's an audiobook and you could read it an ebook and a real book. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
totally.
great. It's so wonderful. That was such a good question, Tyler. Oh, I love it. Oh, you really had me on my toes there. I didn't know what to.
I actually came up with that this morning as soon as I woke up. I was like, "Hey, that would be actually like a really good question for Tammy compared to all the other stuff I've been coming up for the past 2 weeks."
Oh, I love it. No, no, no. You're really great at this, Tyler. Keep
Thank
going.
you.
Keep going. Fill my ego. No, I'm just kidding.
That's my job. It makes my ego bigger and yours. All right. So anyway, so in terms of music within the parks, this is like the question everybody obsessed with the parks asks, but what would you say is your favorite music from any of the parks? Like, it doesn't have to be like just Disney World. It could be like Disneyland, Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
China, Shanghai,
That
anywhere.
really puts you in the parks. Okay, good. This is a good question too. I have I've always loved walking down Main Street and hearing that music. It was much more prominent this trip because my sister and I were actually the last ones in the park. The very last ones.
Wow.
There was nobody on Main Street. It was the weirdest thing. We never expected it and nobody told us to get out. We gradually went out on our own, but we were running around, causing chaos. No, we were on our good behavior. We were just having too much fun laughing,
That's
and,
amazing.
and hearing that music. And I never been there in Christmas time during Christmas time for a long time. So hearing the Christmas music was so beautiful. I love Frontierland. I feel like Frontierland is such. It really makes you feel like a cowboy. I love that,
Yeah.
and I also love Tomorrowland. I love that. I don't know that 1990s what you thought future was gonna sound like feel
Yeah,
while
same.
eating a turkey leg.
I always have to go with Tomorrowland, specifically specifically like the Miracle from Molecules part of it, the beginning, because
Oh, I
that
love that you're so specific.
yeah, because
Yes.
for some reason like it just takes me back to, when I was young, just hanging out on the People Mover, being within like my favorite part of the Magic Kingdom.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
I adored it too. I thought it was a really great attraction. Well, still is the Tomorrow Transit Authority. I love it very much. I got to ride the last ride for that attraction too by myself on a different night, which was wild because that had ever happened to me before. And I loved that. And I loved doing it at night. That was really cool. And I should mention the Interventions theme in that area is so beautiful. Oh, and Epcot. Not in
Yeah.
Tomorrowland. I
God,
apologize.
yeah,
In
that's.
Epcot.
I'm
Love
sorry I
that
didn't
one
say
too.
anything about that sooner. That's also like one of the best songs in Disney. Period in the parks.
It's so memorable and it really takes you to that futuristic
Yeah.
place in your mind that they're trying to get you to when you're, walking through it. I just love it. So
For some,
can't get enough of it. That's why it's on my iPhone.
it's on every Disney fan's iPhone. Like for some reason, I don't know what it is, but like there's just something that's so endearing about like the '90s like synth songs about like that you would have like in Interventions and Tomorrowland. It's just something that's so endearing that describes it perfectly, like what those times in Disney history were about.
I would agree with you on that. I think like and it really it does take you back and it's interesting when I look at some videos online when I'm doing research, it's so crazy to hear those clips in taking place during 1994, you know what
Yeah,
I mean, and you get to hear it as others are hearing it in that that year or that decade, whatever it may be. And I find it fascinating, and and it hasn't changed. I think they put that loop out around the time that Interventions was placed on
right.
both sides, and I believe that was 94 if I'm not mistaken. Might
Correct.
have been earlier, maybe 92.
I think
So
so.
that thing has
Yeah.
had legs. It's had legs. It's still there.
Yeah, and the version of it that we hear now is actually condensed because the original version from when it first started playing has like all the original Epcot songs like It's Fun to Be Free, Living with the Land.
That's right. That's right. Because I don't have that one. I have the condensed version, but I did hear the original one, and I wonder. I guess they took them out because they're not there
Yeah,
anymore.
which is
But
sad.
it it is. But the thing is, I think in the front of Epcot, again, I love that loop as well. They have more of the more recent material, but I think they also still play some of the old material occasionally. Like they have little snippets of something of this and that. So
Right.
I love hearing that too. Again, I think you also hear the end of Tomorrow's Child, which I covered on the album. I did a medley of New Horizons and Tomorrow's Child, but the ending segment of Tomorrow's Child from the original attraction, I believe you could still hear it at Epcot. It's not with the part where they sing, obviously. But when I hear that in the park, I go, because I never heard it in the park. I heard it on a cassette tape, and I still was transported to
Oh
Spaceship
God,
Earth.
yeah.
So I just
Tomorrow's
love that.
Child is just one of those songs where you just listen to it and you just and like
It's
it's just
so
one of those songs that
memorable.
it just gives me butterflies, just thinking about like what Epcot was because in it
The
it's
opportunities
yeah,
and the future. Yeah, absolutely.
because Epcot in itself was sort of like a time capsule, and it still is to an extent because like some original rides are still there, like Spaceship Earth, Journey to Imagination in some capacity. Like all the original buildings are still there and stuff, but like everything, like most of it is still new. Like most of it's been
Exactly.
replaced, but some of the original
Exactly. And we
groundwork is still
and
there.
and who knows what's going to be happening in the future. I know they want to do, it sounds like from the D23 Expo that they were discussing they want to do an overhaul of certain attractions. So we're getting
Yeah,
Guardians of the Galaxy, and who knows what's going to happen. I'm
I'm actually
very
like
open.
really curious about that since ever since like that picture of like the concept art of the new Epcot came out, like I've been over analyzing it, seeing like what goes where. Like, oh my god, are they actually going to do something with Journey to Imagination? Are they going to do all this stuff? Like,
I think it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to move forward in the direction of where they want to go with Epcot, because I believe a lot of people are nervous about it, but again, Epcot is probably the one park out of the four that should always be changing no matter what, because of what it entails about the future, and I believe that's the reason that it was made. So again, sometimes I don't like change, but
yeah.
in some ways it can help. In some ways, it's interesting. I hope to be putting out a new a show on YouTube where I'll be discussing more in depth about my opinions, unpopular opinions I have that I know the majority of Disney fans are going to be totally against what I have to say. But again, I don't get to hear a lot of people who agree with my opinion on the subject. I don't really find that online. And I know there are other people who agree with me, like you agree with me on Stitch's Great Escape. It doesn't hurt. You know what I mean?
It
We
doesn't
don't
hurt, but I
we're not
understand
hurt from it.
why.
We understand why they're upset, but it doesn't hurt us. We're okay with it. But again,
Yeah.
we come from a different generation where we grew up with it. So taking into account different stances on certain things, I feel like I want to bring that conversation to the table. So that's what I'm hoping to plan on producing after the album. Of course, the album's the number one priority right now, but this summer I hope to have like a kind of like a correlation with it, continuing on with the album, maybe doing some more covers that just go on YouTube, that type of thing. But I thought I'd, give it a big splash, give it a big cannonball, jump in and see if I can ride the waves. See where it goes.
All right. Well, I would love to be involved with that if you ever like get that show off the ground. Like
Hey,
just like
if it something happens with it, we'll see. I want to see if I could start making editorials and setting some goals, because I'm such a Disney fan, but I have not seen certain films. I've not experienced certain attractions, so I feel like I'm a bad Disney fan. I need to know. And I want to hear more opinions. So
yeah.
you'll be the first to know what's going on with it. So,
I don't
but
think there's no such thing as like a bad Disney fan really. Like if you don't like something or if you do like something, that's fine. You're only human.
you're very kind. I
Just don't
appreciate it.
just don't be a jerk about it. That's all I got to
Well, it's
say.
interesting because I look at things and I'm like, I didn't know about this, I didn't know
Yeah.
about that, and I've been so closed-minded because I'm like, my attractions that I like are the only ones that matter. But
Oh
I've been
yeah.
developing more, of an open mind over these past couple of years, going, you know what, I really want to know why. Why was this attraction made? Why was this person picked for the job? That type of thing. So I want to get into that. I love learning the stories behind these things, and it just
Same
is
like
fascinating. So I love it. Overall, I love it.
Yeah, like I assume that you're familiar with Rob Plays on YouTube.
No, I'm not.
Oh,
Who is
really?
that again?
Rob
Maybe if you
Plays.
refresh my mind. maybe not refresh my mind, but refresh my memory.
He's
See, again,
basically
I'm losing it.
he's basically a YouTuber who is involved with the Disney parks as well, and he's basically known for his controversial opinions. Like he made a couple videos. Like one, he said like there's like a video that he goes in depth at like to say like maybe it's time we should replace the carousel of progress. And as someone who loves the carousel of progress so much, he actually made a few valid points, which actually kind of makes sense.
And I would only assume he's referring to the environment of Tomorrowland is very drastically different than the Carousel of Progress itself. And I can totally understand a lot of people again treat the Carousel of Progress as they treated the Universe of Energy with Ellen. So
Correct.
and
Yeah.
I like the Universe of Energy and I love going on the Carousel of Progress. I would do both every time I'd go. And again, a lot of people love that nostalgia feeling, but when you have new families coming in, they have no clue. But it is an attraction that was touched by Walt. I'm not saying I don't know if he said this, but I wouldn't say remove it entirely and never have it in the parks again. But I would
Yeah.
say you have to preserve it some way and keep it somewhere in the parks would be common courtesy. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's just me. You know what I mean? I'll take Carousel of Progress over It's a Small World any day, and I will stick with that.
Honestly, same here. So I even though I love both dearly, so. But yeah, I'll
You
send
know,
you
but
his
same
videos,
way.
and
Same way.
I'll
Yeah, I'd
send
love to
you.
check it out. I love hearing other people's opinions.
Yeah.
It's really, I think, and even if I strongly disagree with them, I just love that they take the effort to make valid points that defend their argument, as opposed to, people can tweet with 140 or 240 characters and just say, I'm right, you're wrong. You know what I
Right.
mean? I like that discussion. Just don't shut it off. Keep it as a discussion. Why do you like it? You know what I mean?
Right. I feel like you would also enjoy Tony Goldmark's videos. Do you know him?
No, I do not. I do not.
Okay, well he's actually on Channel Awesome, and he does Disney park videos. He does like reviews and editorials, and some of the stuff he says in his State of the Park videos. He was the guy I mentioned earlier who did the tribute to Cinemagique in his top 17 video. Like he has a lot of like good opinions about that stuff, but he's still like open minded to like everything people are talking about, even though he gets like his fair share of jerks in the comments.
That's interesting because I love watching Nostalgia Critic and I love Channel Awesome. I've never heard of him before, but I will check it out.
Yeah, he's been
I'm
he's
always
been on
open
there
for
for a
new
couple years
material to watch.
actually.
I don't know why I haven't heard of him. It's been a rough couple years for me. Just trying
Yeah,
to get off my feet, get out of college, and try to make something for myself. So I'm still kind of learning. Obviously, I'm pretty young, and I know that. But
yeah, same.
I do like the learning experience, but I always like keeping my eyes and ears open for new creators and new content. I just love that. You know what I mean? So and it's great that we have YouTube to do that. I don't think either of us would be able to do a podcast, without iTunes and without all these other different podcasts that have come before us. So we've taken our inspiration and made it a passion of ours and doing it on the side. And I think that's really awesome of you to be doing that again with your friend. I'm so sorry I didn't get to talk with him tonight.
It's
And
fine.
I
We
it's
do
just
we do we decided to do this thing where we do like solo interviews because he did one with another artist recently, and I'm doing it with you for the first time. So
But that's good though. And
yeah,
you know what? It really helps. I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more confident with, discussing things with people, asking questions, and I still get nervous for every interview I do, but I feel like I have a better sense of worth and self-esteem, especially when I, can take down my introverted self and
yeah,
go ahead and put myself out there into the world in a way that is very nerve-wracking. You are kind of put into the spotlight in some ways, and again, my editing skills in the I can't listen to myself. I finish interviewing someone, I edit it, I get it done because I can't stand hearing myself. So I will not listen to my other interviews. I just can't. And I'm like, oh, I could have edited that out. I could have made a better edit out of this. So I am so particular. But again, we will grow, and we will really kind of, you know, train ourselves with our little training wheels, and then we'll be able to take them off and then ride full into the sunset. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not to end anything,
that's
but to
such a
keep going.
great way of looking into it. Yeah.
It's fun. I think you like doing podcasts too.
I'm still kind of new to it, but so far, yeah, I enjoy it. Mainly my passion is more so in like producing and recording music with friends and stuff, but this is a good side hobby. It's fun, you know?
Mhm. And it helps you because then you know a little bit more about the time and effort that goes into this. I don't believe a lot of people when they listen to podcasts, it just sounds so easy. But it really is not, because I've had conversations that have gone on for 4 hours, and you have to cut that down to an hour or less. It's like, it's so hard.
Yeah, I'm thinking this whole conversation might just probably go uncut, except for like a few edits, but
Some of our awkward pauses.
which happens, but it is what it is, you
Hey,
know?
it's life. It's fine. I think we're doing pretty well. Do you think we should ride off into the sunset, or do you have a couple questions left for
I
me,
have
or
I have one more question, which is sort of a follow up, and I'll send you Rob and Tony's videos like after the conversation. But so what are your plans after the album? Like you already were talking about, like possibly doing a new show. Like what else do you have on the
yeah.
table after the album?
Well, building my YouTube channel, I have received. I'm at almost 3.5 million views on my Jessica Rabbit cover of her song,
Congratulations, by the
and
way. Yeah.
thank you. And my Swan Princess cover is approaching 500,000 views. So I see that there are people watching and interested and want to know more. So I was going to go for that route, the YouTube channel. I'm always looking for a new project to go for. And I think the Sierra Talk Show podcast I have is great. I love doing it. But right at this time, there's so much going on. It's very difficult. So I'm releasing an interview a month now as opposed to a weekly interview,
Right.
which will definitely help. I work on the Nancy Drew podcast, so that comes out every week. Um, so I keep myself busy as best I can, and I'd love to be able to go to every single Disney park at some point and be able to
Yeah.
experience everything. I was hoping to go to Disneyland Paris this year just to go see Cinema Chic, and it's gone now. So
Mm.
I was really disappointed. But I'd love to do that. I think that would be an experience in of itself because I never got to study abroad. I really wanted to do that, but to graduate early, it just was not going to be in the cards. So I'd love to do that at some point and be able to do more
Yeah.
reviews. I think it's not just reviews, but also, in-depth conversations and editorials. So I think that's what I'm going to do, unless like the album is very, very successful. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm pretty clueless. I want to go mirror, mirror on the wall. Tell me, is it gonna rise or is it gonna fall? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm kind of confused. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I know that I put my 110% effort into it. I tried my hardest with it, and I might not be able to do anything like this again. But I'm glad I did. I learned a lot. But if there were an offer on the table to do another album, I have some ideas that I would really like to take into consideration and probably work on. So it's all of what happens with this album. And I hope some of your listeners, I hope I'm not hounding, but if you want to check it out, it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon. You could check out my website at tammytuckey.com/album, or just tammytuckey.com. You can click album at the top. So then you can see who the other individuals I'm working with on the album, the collaborations we have. We have 2 music videos coming out as well, and I'd love to hear everybody's feedback and thoughts, good and bad. I wanna know what I could do better. Obviously, this is not gonna be the most professional thing ever, although I put a lot of time and a lot of money into it. So I think it sounds that way, but maybe some, hotshot musician thinks otherwise, which is fine. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, but I really do think that this album is a special one, and it comes from a Disney fan, directly from a Disney fan. So all me, all produced by me, all recorded by me, just me. But it was fun, and it was such a pleasure, and it's great because I get to, besides working on the podcast, this album, I've been able to connect with you, of course, Tyler, to record this interview, some other individuals I've talked with, and my collaborations with the people on the album. It really builds like this camaraderie, you know what I mean? We shouldn't be, hunting each other down or, you know, being jealous because I don't know. I am so happy for the success of so many other individuals. I can only be happy. You know what I mean? I'm so happy. It just makes me. I'm thrilled that people are able to chase their dreams and be able to do what they want with those dreams and make it a reality. And this is what I did with this is what I did with my album. So, but thank you very much for having me on the show again. I just want to say that before you wrap up because I really appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us.
It's always a pleasure, and I really and thank you for being such a great support system for me, and always liking my stuff. I appreciate it.
And I'll keep being that for as long as I can, aka forever.
You rock, Tyler. You rock, Tyler. Thank you so much.
And this is good exposure for us too, in a way. So.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what the future may hold? I always keep my eyes and ears open, and I don't want to let any opportunities pass. And I want to keep I want to keep an open mind about certain things. Who knows? There might be something else in the cards for you, from me. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's interesting. We go into the abyss of the unknown. But I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do.
In a month. We'll see how it runs.
All right. Well, anyway, that's great. So this is the interview. Thanks for joining us, Tammy, and we will probably have another interview or an album review sometime next month. So until next time,
I'll be eager. I'll be so nervous to hear it. So I'll be crossing my fingers.
This is Tyler. This is Tyler Green and Tammy Tuckey signing out.